Hello everyone, welcome back to another session of Flow Builder series. Today we are going to see how to create records using ScreenFlow and Autolaunch Flow. So I've listed down a scenario over here. The scenario is to create a contact record whenever an account is created, right? So I believe that in one of the previous sessions, I've already covered the ScreenFlow example, that how to create a ScreenFlow and how to include that ScreenFlow in one of the record pages. But I'm going to cover both the scenarios over here. Right, so let's just get started with the screen flow first, and then we will move ahead with the auto launch flow. So I'll move to my org, and you need to click on setup. Just type in flow, and if you click on flows, you'll get the you will get all the flows listed along with these options. So you have to click on new flow. And as I'm starting with the screen flow, so I'm selecting this option and I'll click on. You need to navigate to freeform in order to see all the available resources over here. So I'm going to select freeform. And all right, so in order to create a contact, there are a few points that you have to keep in mind. The first thing is that what are the fields that are required to create the contact, right? So you guys might already be aware that last name is one of the fields that is required in order to create a contact, right? So the screen that we would be creating, we would have to put the last name, right? So that whenever you're using the screen flow on your record pages or on any action, right, the user will enter the last name. That's point number one. Point number two is that the contact that you're trying to create, you want to associate that contact to an account record ID, right? You don't want to create an orphan contact. So for example, if I actually go to an account and show you this, so let's say I'm on this account, right? And if I include my screen flow, let's say over here, or using a quick action over here, and when I'm creating the contact from the account page, then I want that contact to be associated to this particular account. That means I would need the account ID of this particular account, right? So that I can pass that account ID to the contact record that I would be creating, right? So this is nothing but getting the current page record ID, right? So in your flow, if you guys remember from the previous session, how to get the current page record ID. So first of all, to get that account ID, or you can say current page record ID, let's just go to manager and create a variable. So here I would be choosing variable, and here this is the API name record ID. This is what you have to give. If you give any other name, it will not work, because you are trying to get the current record page ID, right? Which is nothing but the record ID. In our case, it's going to be the account record ID, right? But you are trying to get the current page record ID. So that is why you have to give it as record ID, right? So I'm creating this variable. I'm giving the API name as record ID. Data type, I can give it as text, available for input, and click on done. So now I have this record ID, which is nothing, but it's going to act as the account ID. That is what we will be mapping this record ID on the contact object, right? The second point was to have the last name, right? So first of all, let's just go ahead and create a screen. And let me give it a name as create contact. This is my screen property. So I'm giving the screen label. Click on done. And then here, I need the last name, right? So I'm gonna create a field for last name. Let's just give it as last name. And this is required. We know that. That is why we are marking it as required, and click on done. Okay, and let me just associate this to this. Now, the next step is to create the contact record, right? So contact record creation will be done from here. So you need to include the create records component over here. So I'll click on here, and I'm going to name it as create contact using flow. Right, and I want to create only one record, and I want to use my own resources that I've created, right? For example, record ID, and then the object would be contact, right? Here, the last name. You need to, so this is these are the fields from the object, right? So on contact object, the last name you would want to map it to the screen component last name, right? The one that we just created, the text. So if you, here it is, right? Screen component last name. Now the other variable that we have created, that was to map the account ID, right? Because that variable is holding your current page record ID, right? And your current page record ID would be your account ID, because that is where on account you're going to put this flow, right? So here account ID, this is a field on the contact object to associate account, right? And here the variable that I've created is nothing but the record ID. See, under variables, so record ID. Okay, so last name, the user would be providing the last name, and that's all the user has to provide. It's gonna automatically map the record ID to the account ID field of the contact. So click on done, and let's just associate this, and that's it. Save, and I'm going to activate this because I want to use it on the record page, right? So now, coming back to account, our flow is ready. So either we can include the screen flow component, screen flow on the record page, or we can create a quick action. We have already seen that how to include the screen flow component on the record page. So let's just go ahead and create a quick action. So I'm going to create a quick action, which is going to be available here. Okay. So account object, and I want to create a quick action, right? So I will click on button, links and actions, click on new action. Here we need to select flow, right? And this is the flow that we have created. This one we need to use, right? Because this is the one we have created for this. And this we can leave it here, just keep it as create contact, and then click on save. Now I have this action. All I have to do is I have to include this quick action on my page layouts. So I have multiple page layouts and I'm not sure which one I'm using. I'm just gonna, or I can just go to edit page. Meanwhile, I'll just go ahead and, sorry, mobile lightning and actions. Here I should be able to see the one that I have created, create contact, right? And you need to actually drag and drop it under, sorry, over here. And then click on quick save. Right. So you can see that I am able to see the quick action that I've created, create contact, right? And if I'll click on this, I should be able to see my screen flow. So this is my screen flow where I have kept only one field, right? Last name. So if I'll provide last name here, and if I click on next, the contact will be created, and then this contact will be associated to this account ID because I have provided the record ID, right? In the flow. So here, let's just say test screen flow 1. And this should be the last name, the value that I'm giving, the contact that will be created. This should come as the last name. So next, and it should get created. Now 3 is showing 3, right? It was, so here you can see the contact got created, right? And if you actually navigate to this contact and go to details, you can see the account name, right? This is the account from where actually I created this contact. So this got associated to this account. All right. So this is how you can use your screen flow in order to create a record, right? So let's just now navigate to the other one and create this like execute this scenario for auto launch flow. So in when it comes to auto launch flow, that means you will not be using a screen anymore. So your record generation should happen automatically, right? So what we are going to do is, in this particular scenario, your flow will be called from the process builder, right? Because process builder can identify, like, can basically trigger whenever your account is getting created, right? So every time you are creating an account, your process builder will be called, and then your process builder can call the flow wherein you can create the contact, right? So in your process builder, you will be calling the flow, and in the flow, you will be creating the contact record, right? So every time an account is created, builder will be called, and the process builder will call the flow in turn, right? And your contact will be created. So let's just first go ahead and create the flow. So I am going back to the flows and let me close this. I'm going to choose auto launched flow, create. So here, if you see, you don't have the screen option available, right? Because this auto launched flow is not supposed to be triggered from a screen, right? It is to be called from somewhere. And the scenario that we just discussed, we are going to call it from the process builder, right? So, but then again, in this scenario as well, you would be needing the account ID, right? Because when you're creating the contact, you want to associate that contact to the account that the user is creating, right? So for that, we are going to create a variable. So I'm just clicking on manager, resource, variable. So here, if you remember in the last example, when we were using the screen flow, we gave the API name as record ID. But as in this case, this particular auto launch flow will be called from the process builder. You can give a different name here, right? Because this particular variable you would have to map in your process builder, right? Because your process builder will be passing the account record ID to this particular variable. So this one, you can name it whatever you want. So I am going to name it as account ID, and data type as text, which is fine, available for input, and click on done, right? That's one thing. And then the next step that I would be doing is to create a contact record. So create contact. I want to create one. I want to use the resources that I've created. The object will be contact. So contact, and last name to, no, sorry. We actually have to give some value here, right? Because we are not using the screen flow, right? So I'm going to give it a value as last name test, okay? And let's just also give the value as for first name, uh, first name and last name. All right, and then I have to give the value for account ID. So account ID, I'm going to map the account ID of the contact object with the account ID variable that I've created, right? So the variable is this account ID, and then I just need to. So if you, let's just go through it again, that what we have done. So all I did here, I just created a variable to hold the account ID, because that account ID we will be getting from the process builder. So once we complete this, we will navigate to the process builder, and you'll see that how we can pass the account ID to this variable that we have created over here, right? So for now, for now I need to tell, right, that from on the contact object, the account ID to which variable I want to map. This is the resource that I have created, right? So I want to map it to this. But then from process builder, when this flow will be called, this account ID will be getting a value from the process builder. And when this flow is called, that value will be assigned to this account ID when the contact record is created, right? So this is fine. And then let's just click on done. Do this, click on save, contact, launch, and click on save. And I'm gonna click on activate. Now let's go to process builder. process builder. And let's create a new process builder for account. So new. The process is whenever a record changes, that's when I want to call this. So here, if I click on add object, I want to call this process builder on account object record change. And I only want to call it whenever an account record is created, not on the update. Okay, so I am just using this option. Created. Do we have anything in advance? That's fine. Okay, and then add criteria. Let me just, yeah. So I want to run it every time. Okay, so run every time. I'm not providing any criteria. All right, so let me just save it. So every time an account is created, this process builder will be called. Okay, and I'm gonna add an action here. So in action, you need to search for flows, and here what it is doing, it is this flow is gonna create contact, and we need to select the flow. This is the one that we have created, right? Now, here, if you guys remember, we have created a variable on the flow, right? Account ID. So we need to pass the account ID to that variable from here, right? So add flow, and here account ID. See, this is the variable that I've created on the flow, right? This is not coming from anywhere else. This is coming from this flow. So I need to select this, and hold on. I need to select the field reference, and here I would be selecting the account record ID, right? So ID is nothing but the account ID. Should be the account ID. Hold on. Account ID. All right. And that's it. So all I did, I selected account object, right? And I have not given any criteria because I want to run this process builder every time an account is created, right? And in action, I am calling the flow. And when I'm calling the flow, in the flow, I have this variable where I wanted to pass the account ID. So I'm passing the account ID as the field reference, taking the account dot ID from the account that is getting created, right? So this is how you actually assign the variable, and you can click on save. Okay, so this is done. I just need to activate this and confirm. And that is it. Now, if I go and create a account, a contact should be auto created. So let's just take this one. Let me see if this has any, it has one contact. Let me just, delete it. Sorry, this is not going to work, right? Because I have to create a new account, right? So let's just say test Autolaunch, right? And is there any other extra field that is required over here? I don't think so. So now the moment I create this account, a contact should get created, and what details that contact would have. One thing we are sure that that particular contact is going to have this account ID, right? Whatever account I'm going to get, whatever account is going to get created, that particular contact that is going to get auto generated will have this account ID. And what about the first name and last name? If you remember, on the flow, we have hard coded the first name and last name, right? So if I show you here, this was the auto launch, right? So here, see, in the last name, I have given this value. In the first name, I have given this value, and account ID, I have just mapped like this, right? So the moment I hit on save, and the account that will get created and the contact that is going to get auto generated, that contact will have the first name as this and the last name as this. Okay. So let me just save it. And here it is, right? You can see this. So this is the account that we created, right? and this is the contact. This contact has only first name and last name, whatever we have given in the flow, right? So this is just like one of the most simple scenarios how you can create a record using auto launch flow and using a screen flow, right? I will be like, basically consolidating few more scenarios on auto launch flows and screen flows, and I would be creating more videos so that it will be like, more clear to you that in different scenarios how you can use auto launch flows, right? I think screen flows are bit easier, but in auto launch flows there are a lot of other things and aspects that you need to still understand. Just like, just because we could like, do this, it's not that simple, but I would say it's a good start. And this was one of the simplest examples. If you could understand this, I'm sure that you will understand the other upcoming videos. So I'll see you in the next session. Till then, bye bye.